Hello again to all the fine folks tuning in whenever, wherever, and however they're doing so to this podcast recap installment for episode 5 of the sci-fi original series Revival. Spoilers abound, of course, so as always, if you're checking this podcast episode out, maybe after you are fully caught up to and have seen episode 5. We are back at it here discussing this program's episode called Triage, and the we in question are myself, Sean Talley. Joining me as she traditionally does, she is Liz MacArthur. Welcome back, Liz.
Hi, welcome back, me.
No tidbits today.
No, no, I don't have it. I told you everything about myself in the last 4 episodes. That's all you need to know.
We know you also worked at Chuck E. Cheese. Yes, thank you. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this program presented by, hosted on the Paper Street Pictures Podcast Network feed. If you're listening to the audio version, there is a video option available on Paper Street Pictures YouTube channel. And if you're actually watching said video version, there's also an audio version you can stream via all major podcast apps. Links in whatever you are listening to it or watching it on. So Liz and I are once again joined by the co-creators, the co-showrunners, the executive producers of the program. Thank you again for joining us here, Aaron B. Koontz and Luke Boyce.
Yay.
Thank you for having us.
Excited to talk this one after the fallout of the end of episode 4. We will dive right into number 5 here, this one written by Heather Taylor. We open on a mix of footage of both Dana getting shot from that ending of last episode, being wheeled into the hospital. We see M, we see Cooper, we see Wayne in the waiting area. Ibrahim also walks in. Wayne sees that and goes to confront him, but JP kind of pulls him back and seems to explain to him in an audible fashion to the side there that Dr. Ramin's actually who brought her in, and they table that for later. The nurse comes and says to the family that while the bullet did miss her major organs, Dana does have some severe internal bleeding, and that if she makes it through surgery, they'll still need to keep her sedated for 24 hours to monitor. So everybody's on edge for obvious reasons, unable to see her awake yet. So Wayne tells M he's got to go to work on the case and to call when Dana gets out. At this point, M and Ibrahim share a look. We get a little more flashes from the woods, Ibrahim running out to find Dana, who, despite her dire state, she actually has the wherewithal to plead with Ibrahim to say, please, my sister was not here. Please, she was not here. So Ibrahim's now got to keep a lie this whole episode here, but we are now in daylight in the early morning of the same woods where the shootings went down. And among some officers and forensics folks, we see Wayne with Deputy Gunderson. He notes that the only 2 bullet shells have been recovered so far, and they've both been from Dana's gun. And Wayne asks them what's the working theory. Gunderson, who has a lot to do in this episode, he's hesitant and first to be fully forthcoming with Wayne here, even noting, I know you Cypresses like to bend the rules. And Wayne says, this is his family, his daughters. And if he thinks they're going to keep him out of the loop on this, Gundy better, quote, wake up and give your head a shake, son. Is that a line from Heather, or was that somebody gave a pass and added that one?
I think that was a David line.
I think it was a David line. Yeah.
Because it's the kind of thing David would say to someone. It's like, that kind of vibe. Yeah. This was, I mentioned this on the Twitter thread, this was probably the most discussed episode of the season, just for a variety of reasons. There's a lot of things, like just logistical things we had to figure out with like the bullet and all our theories and all the ideas that we had of how we can make this work. But then also there's just a lot of, how are you making... It's interesting to try to create an episode where your main character is sidelined, but yet it's still all about your main character. And like the stakes still have to be centered around her. So like, even though Dana is incapacitated, the presence of Dana is in every scene, right? And I think that was a tough line to thread. But, I think Heather in the writer's room and how we broke the episode and how it eventually kind of came together was really nice. One thing I will flag for the tease that I just think is interesting is the fact that Wayne can't be there. And he has to go work, which is I wish we could have had more time to mine things like this and delve into what that is. But I think there's a lot of people who run from trauma, run from those stressors, and they run to their work. I know I've been one of those people in my past. And I think that, Wayne is showing that. So he's showing his inability to deal with, like, I don't want to talk about this stuff. I don't want to deal with this stuff. Like, okay, I got work to do, instead. And that is a trait that will continue throughout the season as things get thrown Wayne's way. So it's just something I wanted to flag here early on.
I'm glad you said that, because I think one of the things that I love about this episode is that it's really where we start to get a broader sense of Wayne's character. Before this, Wayne is, and it's been rightly mentioned many times, is he yells a lot. He's loud and he's brash. He feels, I don't want to say one-dimensional for a lot of the episodes before this, but there's not a lot to mine with him. And in this episode, you not only get that from the front, right off the bat in the episode, we see him have an emotional reaction to something close to him, which I think is important. And then even through the episode, we see him make choices that are actually what we think are unconventional for Wayne. And we'll talk about that as we get there. But I think it's a great Wayne episode. I think David did an amazing job. And it's one of my personal favorite parts about it.
No, for sure. A little bit of helplessness that he's not used to, being in control in so many facets.
Yep.
But yeah, that line definitely, it rang true. It felt like a thing Wayne would say. Wake up and give your head a shake, son. Gunderson does posit here that yes, it could have been multiple shooters, but based on the evidence so far, the most likely scenario is actually that Dana drew her gun and she and Aaron tussled for it, and both of them got shot in the process. Wayne says to expand the search perimeter, find more evidence, because he is convinced that someone else was there doing the shooting. Gunderson says he's heading to talk to the witness right now, Dr. Ramin, and Wayne says he's coming with him, but at which point Gunderson does tell him somewhat assertively, like, no, you gotta stay here, try to at least keep appearances, so... Back at the hospital, Gunderson does sit down with Ibrahim in a private room and begins to interrogate him. It's a straightforward, he does interrogate him, but the way it's shot and the way Gunderson's kind of leaning into him, it kind of adds a funny little layer to it.
No, it's just a fun scene. Look, This is a great Brent episode. Mark Little, who Luke and I are just evasive. Not evasive, that's the wrong word. We are, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, we love him. And in our praise, he's just someone that he's one of those quirky Fargo-esque type characters, and when you get, because he's going to have to take the lead, right? Like Dana and him are partners essentially, and so Dana's incapacitated. He'd be the person kind of stepping in, and he's also awkward and weird. So it's like, you can't, if you're going to do this, you're going to do this interrogation, how do you make it fun? And I think a lot of credit goes to Sandy Pereira, who's our editor, and how the jump cuts and we move around, and then the blocking that Amanda and Justin were kind of like organizing there, and then I love the like come into frame stuff and things that were done. It was just really, really fun. And it's a great scene and shows personality and what's there, but he's still asking serious questions, and you're feeling the weight of what's happening to Ibrahim and the decisions he's having to make. It's a great scene.
The original cut of this scene was 8 minutes long. Yes.
Yeah. I would have watched that for 8 minutes, honestly.
Yeah.
I could see that too, but it works with what we get. He does ask him, do you want a gun? And he says, no, why? And he's like, well, you're the only conscious one who was there, and the other two were shot. He explains he was on a date with Dana. Dana got a text, but he did not know what was actually said or who it was from. And, Gunderson continues pressing him, and Ibrahim's starting to find it difficult to avoid mentioning that there was another person there, as becomes a thread through this episode. They're interrupted with news that Dana is out of surgery, but Gunderson actually makes him stay put and go over it all one more time. So it even ends on like a funny button of him going to start from scratch with him again. But
I like to imagine that they just did it all again.
That's the 8 minute version. They actually show them.
Yeah.
Start from zero.
That is like what cops do, right? Like when you watch these, true crime stories and you watch them and they're like, we're going to do this one more time. They'll do it like 20 times and break you for, 12 hours until you're finally like, I shot myself.
I know for a fact, I know that every time I watch one of those scenes, I'm like, they would break me in like 10 minutes. Like I would be like, I did it. I did all of it. I know.
And it's been proven now in the court of law, like you can't, their tactics don't even work and all this stuff. But this is 2008, so this shit can go down. But also, I think within that too, you have this character who's not taken seriously, and he's like, well, I got to be serious now. But it's still funny because you're goofy, dude, but he's trying to be serious, which I think is just Mark Little does such a great job.
No, the supporting cast, again, always, every scene with these supporting, they all make for a richer world in the Fargo vein. We're now in Dana's hospital room. She is out and all plugged up. Cooper enters, lays down with her after a hug. M walks in as well, and in behind her comes Ibrahim, asking if it's okay that he actually enters. At this point, Cooper exits, and then when M asks Ibrahim what he told the police about the woods, he says he told them, quote, just what I saw, except for you. Says so much of it doesn't make sense, and asks him to please tell him what did happen out there. Was that you who texted her? M says, no, I was confronting Aaron, and Dana just showed up. And he says, okay, well then who shot her? Was it Aaron who set all this up? M says no, but does have a history with the guy. She tells him, honestly, the honest sequence of events, and then says she's sorry he got wrapped up in it and that he has to lie for her. At which point, Ibrahim does correct her and say, I am lying for Dana, not you. But says he is not good at it, and if they keep pressing him, he might crack like Liz under a hot light. It was the lobster monster with the candlestick in the woods. But M tells him she will figure this out. M also realizes as we're beginning to cut away from this conversation that while in front of the mirror, still cracked and bloody from the scene we saw in 102, that the bullet did not go all the way through her, and that is in fact still inside of her. So fun moment there.
Yeah.
That will lead to fun moments.
Yeah, this was, I think, the second scene we shot. So props to Andy and Romy, especially because they are performing with a lot of, stuff that has not actually happened in real life to them. This is episode 5, and it's the first thing they're doing, and it works so well. So I remember it was like one of those moments where we're watching on set, it was like, oh, okay, this is going to work because they're so good.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. It was very nerve-wracking. You know, you want to start off a shoot, kind of find your footing. So it's like, well, you're in a hospital room, Dana's on a bed. So like Mel's first 2 days shooting are just her literally laying in a hospital bed. She fell asleep at one point.
I bet she loved that. She loved it.
She did. Oh, yeah. she absolutely loved it. Yes. And so that was fun, but it also put a lot on establishing an emotional, moment that you have to work up to and backwards from and understanding where that is, which was nice because otherwise, if you start to kind of build in order and you're like, okay, I'm at this emotion, I'm at this emotion, I'm at this emotion. Sometimes it becomes too melodramatic when you get to an episode 7, 8, 9 and things are too high and the stakes because you're like, well, I was already here and this is even worse. So I got to be here. But this allows you to dial in emotional scenes in the hospital and then say, this is where we're going to be. So that way we can keep it more subdued and work our way there, which I thought was actually interesting and it worked to our benefit. But it was definitely nerve wracking. I remember sitting there behind the screen, like, it's the first day and we're like, I can't believe this is happening and all that stuff's going on. And you're like, who are all these people now? And like, are we going to make our days? We didn't. And then we're going to figure it out from there. But within that, those first moments of Andy in particular, and just like watching his side. And I'm like, whoa, this is so real. I believe him completely. When he's like, I'm a bad liar. I'm so bad. Like it's like, wow, this is like, I could feel the fish out of water getting stuck. And now he's thrust into this whole world. And that's only going to continue from here, and this is also a big Andy episode in that respect, Ibrahim episode. And how he, as a character, is this kind of ancillary piece. But now, he's a big part of the Revival Day mystery, from the CDC perspective and all that he's going on there with what he's studying with the water and the algae and different things that are popping up in CDC investigations and with Carla and all that. But this is where his world, outside of like maybe in this fleeting or not interest with Mel, with Dana, gets sucked into the Cypress family drama. And now he's a part of a conspiracy and he has to lie to the cops. And it's just great. And as our moral compass of the show and of the season in so many ways, we're putting him in those situations, forcing our moral compass to be deceitful. And that's a really fun arc to have. But man, there's just something about, you're like that nerve-wracking feeling of like, is this going to work? Is this going to work? And then you watch it and it does. And you just kind of like melt in those like uncomfortable chairs when you're watching monitor and you're just like, okay, all right, this is holy shit. This looks good, feels good. And Romy and Andy, this scene, I think was like that moment when I was like, we might have a show. Mm-hmm. And it was so early on, and everybody's watching the dailies too. Like every executive, everybody's watching this and they watch this scene, So this was like, are the dynamics going to work, And this is with our main character laying incapacitated in a hospital bed. So anyway, it was just a very interesting, making TV's fucking crazy. So
we come back to see him in Wayne's office, who's asking questions now that she knows this bullet's inside of her. Wayne says, it's okay, sweetheart. We're working on the case now. But she says she wants to help. But Wayne, says there's a working theory that Dana's actually the one at fault there. And she's like, how? She was shot too.
Did he say anything about her hair? Like,
I don't think so.
Like, I was waiting the whole time.
The last time we saw them together, he was in Rhodey's apartment, right? I guess that would be the...
She had her hair in Rhodey's apartment.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if in the script because there was
a discussion.
Lots of stuff got cut. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Okay. This script was one of the longest scripts we had that got, I think, the most, other than like in the second half, even more got in the second half of the season cut. But a lot of stuff got cut out of this. Yeah,
this episode in particular probably, and even the first edit of this episode was like 15 minutes too long.
Yeah.
So, you have to get to 42:30. Like that's our thing. And that includes like the end credit thing. Like, so it's like basically 41 and a half minutes is what you have to do for every episode. So we had a lot to cut. And I think there was some really fun stuff. I mean, some good emotional stuff, even in the hospital and things that were there too, that were pulled. And yeah, I know there was a discussion. I think that was like an early on thing of like, we only have so much time. We have to move the story forward. But yeah, we only have one passing by comment, which is, at the end. It's like you lose a fight with a razor or whatever.
Yeah.
Jeannie actually pops in to say Lester wants a word. Wayne snaps back, but not now, Lester, which is going to become a running gag in this episode as well. He does tell him on the down low that he does not believe it was Dana, but still, they've only recovered 2 shells on the site, but they will be done another sweep tomorrow. Lester then tries to speak with Wayne again, but Wayne shoos him out of the office. Jeannie with a funny bit there, like, sorry, he escaped, boss. And knowing this now, asking like, what times are they going to be on the crime scene tomorrow? She's obviously trying to figure out how she can get that bullet there. But Wayne shuts her down too and just asks her to leave. We are now on Carla at the CDC doing additional testing on Miles Miller. She references Miles as being, quote, on loan from the county's penitentiary. They have Miles stripped down to his socks and undies here, and Carla and a few of the CDC folks actually are prodding him and then cut another small rectangular strip of skin from his arm that we've actually seen them use kind of as samples before.
That was skin?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gross.
Yeah.
What you think?
You think that's gross?
I don't know. I didn't know.
Wait until you get a couple more episodes in. Yeah. We'll see. Gross.
I can imagine it's going to get more graphic, but
it's too much skin to take.
Wayne, with never a dull moment in this episode, now has Mayor Dillish in his office. He is hot with Wayne over his wife's encounter with him, saying, you know how embarrassing that is, having her ID marked like that, a notice on our door. And Wayne snaps back, would that bother her or you? And both of them say some real pointed stuff at each other here. You know, there's clearly history with all that went down with Patty and the way the families were close at one point. But the mayor takes a few particularly deep digs at Wayne when he mentions, you know, the daughters, saying he's got one in anger management and the other one suspected of murder. And that last bit of good in the Cypress family died with Patty, which Wayne pops up, gets right in the mayor's face at this point. And, you know, mayor's
which,
like,
by the way, this got really heated and they did get very close. Did you do any takes where they kissed?
Yeah, it was like fight or kiss. I mean, that's what you're always building to.
I felt it.
Yeah. This was a scene that I remember. There were a couple scenes at the initial draft that Heather turned in. There were a couple scenes where we're escalating tensions between Dillish and Wayne, and then obviously because we had to start to get and it still was already too long even after we did this, but we had to kind of get it down. And I remember having to like rewrite this moment, and I remember thinking, what is the way to just piss off Wayne the most? How can we get them? We already see them at odds, but like it has to feel like the stakes have been raised. I can't just have them just mad at each other still on the same level. So we have to get personal and you have to dig. We knew that Patty Cypress is going to become something that we have other plans for as the season goes. You'll learn more about Patty in this background. So bringing her directly in. And I remember, God, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was you. I can't remember who it was, but somebody read that letter. Maybe it was Marushka, who's our wonderful, we haven't talked about Marushka yet, by the way, who was our story editor for the whole season. Just an absolute pro. Amazing. One of the funniest people, one of the hardest workers, can take notes in like a magic way. I don't understand. It's like Siegfried and Roy shit in the way that she can like, I don't even know. But I remember it was just like, whoa, like that was too far. And I was like, okay, that means it's it. You know, that means it's it. And then it was so great too with, you know, Conrad Koontz, who plays Mayor Dillish, and David James Elliott are both like behemoth of dudes. Like they're like tally height, but it works great to have them like toe to toe, right? And you can just get them right there. Nobody's on an Apple box. We're not Tom Cruise in this shit. They're face to face trying to figure this out. But it was just important, I thought, to escalate this tension between them to where it's getting personal, to where you're just kind of feeling like this tearing at the seams, and then also start to ask like why, what is happening? Like feels like there's more to me as I'm watching and writing. It feels like there's more under the surface than even what we're seeing as far as where their battle and their conflict is coming from. So I really like that scene, and I like how, I mean, I think at one point it was actual fight. I think we talked about that. There was an actual fight or a punch thrown, but we've already thrown a couple punches. So, and then more punches are coming. Spoilers.
Yes.
That's right. Well, no. Actually, we find out in a future episode where a punch is thrown. So I will say,
right.
And I will say there are more than one punches to be thrown in future episodes, right? So there you go, in a Dillish Cypress world. But in that time, you reference a previous punch that happened before the series started. So technically, prior to the series, there has been a punch thrown, and we don't know why that is either. Anyway, punches are thrown.
The reason they don't come to blows necessarily is, you know, Wayne does say, you know, say that again. And instead, the mayor he says to Wade instead, you may have the governor in your pocket, but I can make it my mission to ensure that you are never reelected or wear a badge again. So he sort of backs Wayne down in that regard with just that kind of threat. So we leave it there. We now know from Aaron that there's pre-punches, post-punches, but we'll get back to that.
I'm just going to imagine they kissed after the cut.
There you go.
Yeah, they're lovely.
We find ourselves in M and K's apartment. I will say the shot of Kay down the cereal barrel with her droopy eyes was hilarious to me. I actually kind of guffawed at the high. I believed how high she was right there. M sits down and brings up Aaron, which Kay initially scoffs at, but then M says, oh no, he's dead, which makes Kay choke on her smoke. Emma explains how the night went down and says that she needs someone she can trust, at which point we cut to Kay holding a big knife. She's going to dig into M's back.
I can't think of anything worse after smoking a bunch much weed.
Did you go eat and kind of recover a little bit before you went straight to the knife cutting? Because you're right. I didn't even think about that, how she still is in a state.
No time.
I mean, she's high functioning. Look, when you smoke that much weed, you're high functioning, right? And there's a lot of people that need that in order to do, like, there's no way they could have done this without being high. There's a lot of that.
Fair point. She might have needed that to
Yeah. That was this is the crux of this episode, right? Like, this is really, earlier on, and by the way, again, credit to Sandy, editor of this episode, who constructed a way. We were trying to figure out the bullet scene where M sees it in the mirror and like doing the cross cut that jumps during the Ibrahim, and it ends with I'm a Cypress, and figuring it out. And, this is Dana has protected M her entire life. Now, M understands that I have to protect Dana, because this is Dana also still protecting me. Even from, I think, Luke, you said this when we were live tweeting the episode, that even from her deathbed, Dana is still trying to protect M. So this becomes her opportunity to be like her big sister and protect her, because she knows that she didn't shoot anyone. And this is just looks bad. So, and we as an audience obviously know that too. And it's one of those situations too, which is interesting in storytelling, where we are going to tell you what our plan is, and then you're going to watch that plan go into action, which is not normal. But I think what makes it interesting is the way in which that plan will be unrolled, if you will, via Kay, right? Which made a lot of sense. And we had discussions about, would it be Rhodey, or different things. And there was something there about, like, it feels like Rhodey's kind of like, I don't want to do that stuff, he's a little too chill. Whereas Kay, we already know that she gets in hijinks with Kay, right? They go to steal drugs together and different, they didn't plan to steal, but M maybe did, but Kay didn't. But either way, that they're willing to get into some hijinks together. And we also just love Maya J, who plays Kay Matherin, is so wonderful. And by the way, I think her delivery when she's learning all the stuff about he's dead, she got shot too, you got like this, like it just keeps going. And it's like,
she's like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. I just think is so great, because as we were rewriting that scene and constructing it, and I remember like, okay, Kay knows nothing about all this. And I'm like, we have to add in all this stuff, and it's just going to get crazier and crazier and crazier. And she already thinks Dana's crazy. She already thinks the family's a little crazy, so I think it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, we fell in love with Kay in the writer's room. So like all the scenes that Kay is in she was not originally in. So like in episode 3 with the drug heist, essentially, the original version of that was just M doing that on her own. We added Kay, and there was many reasons to do that, but we added her to that, and then we sort of built this backstory about what M and Kay would get into, this kind of thing. And the whole writer's room just sort of fell in love with Kay as a character. So we just had to keep putting her in there. And it just felt right in this moment that M would go to Kay because they have a history of doing insane things together. She can trust her to kind of go, even though Kay is not having it exactly, she's still down to do it. So yeah, and then obviously casting Maya was really important. And we looked for a while, I remember Aaron was like, I know exactly what Kay is. And we would see people like, nope. It's not just there. Like it was a game of inches with that character.
There's like an edginess. Yeah, I wanted like a little edginess that was there, but like an aloofness within the edginess, if you will. But not just playing like typical stoner. You know what I mean? That like there's the stoner, but kind of like annoyed at the world, which I think is really fun. Yeah. And Kay, again, just to backtrack for 1 second, when you're writing a series like this, Kay only existed when we were writing the pilot. There was a scene, and this scene even got cut, where Dana goes to M's apartment, be like, M, where are you? We're looking for you, in the pilot. And there was a little discussion at the door. And then we were like, oh, well, there should be like a roommate so that she's not there and she could just talk to a roommate. And then we were like, okay, then maybe if we have a roommate, that allows us to get some information across, or allow M some places to give information to the audience. Because when you have this person who's dead and doesn't want people to know, and she's trying to stay as a recluse, kind of hiding away from the world, how do you get her feelings out? Who are the people she's talking to? So we made Rhodey someone, obviously, that you start to get some of her plight out of. But Kay became someone else that she could talk to. And that's all it was meant to be. But then it just became so much fun to play with her. And she became this like rogue character that we could just pluck in, and use in different ways. And actually, there's a future episodes that we had more scenes with Kay. They ended up getting cut, but there's still some other Kay, moments in the season. But it just was one of those things that happened organically. And you just have to lean into once you find something in a vehicle that kind of works. But, not in the comic, not anything there, just completely created and so much fun.
No, hard to even imagine her not like a factor in episode 102, where we do see that 30 plus days of M and, how she was a factor of not just being a narrative help, but, having someone to say out loud what's going on. But yeah, we're going to get more hijinks with her just in this episode. But back to where we were, she was going to pull out the bullet slug. She has to remove her gloves and actually dig in. Lots of gagging, which she sells really well. But yeah, she feels in and actually does dig it out of M. So Emma ends on a line saying, and now for the hard part. Kay reacts to that as well. What?
Yeah. Which was the last second ADR thing. Yeah. That wasn't in the script. And we're there. And I'm like, oh, just have her just like the hard part, gagging in the background. And it's my favorite, the perfect button. I love it. I'm so proud of it. It's so funny. It just adds to that scene and the absurdity of it. Yeah, it's great.
We cut to Nella, who is hosting a meeting of what appears to be revivers, all revivers, wherein Wanda speaks up about being a reviver and being at peace with it now. Bella calls Damon, who we had seen on a TV screen, was that pilot or 102, I forget, to speak up next, who says, he doesn't know what God's plan is, but he does feel empty. There's like a loneliness in him. And is that really God's plan? Bella does her best to spin it as
Nella.
Chance. Or sorry, Nella. Sorry. That was autocorrect again.
Yeah, Nella, the bar name is Nella.
I know. I have Nella written and then it autocorrected to Bella.
Yeah.
Nella.
That's only because the name. What was her name originally?
Ella.
It was Ella. And then they wouldn't let us use the name Ella didn't clearance for some reason.
There's a bakery in Wausau named Ella's, and therefore we were not allowed. Yes. So we had to
because we had a bar. We wanted the bar. The bar was her name. So Nella's, and what's there. And anyway. They're like Nella cleared. And for the longest time I was like, no. And I pushed back.
It doesn't start with an E like M. It works, it makes it up.
Yeah, I will say one of the biggest things with moving from independent film to TV is the process of clearance, which was insane and something that we were not prepared for when we were writing. And I won't go into too much detail, but it was difficult to say the least. Clearances were so insane.
How did they know? How did they find out that there was a bakery named Ella's in Wausau?
They did a Google search. You know what? It's bullshit. I'll just tell you what it is. It's bullshit. Luke is being so nice. It's bullshit because we're not willing to. Everybody's so afraid of being sued. It's complete and utter bullshit. Everybody's too afraid. They don't know what they're doing. They get so caught up in this. I don't mind saying it. No, they're not going to watch this. They don't give a shit. So and if they did, they wouldn't clear it. Or whatever, so it wouldn't even air. Like, who cares? It's so stupid. Like, just let us call people these names. Like, who cares that somebody actually lives in Wausau with this name? Like, who cares? Stop. And they would change it the last second, Like, somebody brought up Mountain Bay, County Police Department. Like, they did form a thing that became Mountain Bay and Wausau, so that allowed us to use something that was at least close. But, like, we wanted to call Marathon County. We wanted to actually be specific. We wanted to pay, not homage, we wanted to let people know, and the Rothschild, Police Department, all this, that we wanted to actually utilize. And they're like, well, no, that's real. And someone could say it's bad because a cop looks bad. I'm like, what are you talking? Like, what?
These are such overcorrections
it's so, and I think that
happy world.
Our show, I think, was the worst. And I think we were just awful at it. And I don't mind saying it out loud. And it's bullshit. That's what it is. Bullshit.
They had a rule that basically said that if there are less than 5 people named this thing within a certain vicinity, that you could not use that name, which is crazy because if you understand the statistical nature of names, that makes it you have to name people, just the most boring regular names ever, right? And at one point we had named someone after Tim Seeley's aunt who lives in the area, and they literally, it was a person that we knew that gave us permission, and they would not let us name that person, that character.
Yeah. Same thing with Damon. So Damon Manning is named after my brother. So my brother's middle name is Matthews. So his name was Damon Matthews, named after my brother. And they're like, well, we can't do that. And I'm like, it's my fucking brother. Like, I'm going to name it. So then I named it Manning, and they still pushed back, and we came up with that. Paper Street Security, which was said in the first episode, was not allowed because of my company. And I'm like, I'm not suing because Paper Street is listed here. This is the most ridiculous stuff. Like, they're like, well, there's LLCs with Paper Street. It's a company that exists. And I'm like, I know it exists. What is going on?
I'm a little flabbergasted by how touchy that is. And I wonder if it's across the board with that level of TV that this is?
No, we were worse, and we were just bad at clearances. And we will have to get better clearance people.
Wow.
Sorry, I don't have to say it. Like, we just were.
I almost want to call her Ella out of spite now.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, anyway. Yeah, great stuff done on the show, don't get me wrong, but it did frustrate me. Yeah.
No. So again, she spins it very positively. In walks Blaine and a handful of his flock, all of whom appear armed with bats and such. much. Blaine with a lot of Stephen Ogg making the most of every line as he does. What have we here? A God-fearing woman helping some legion of demons. Have you no soul? Nella asks him to leave and leave these poor people alone. To which Blaine says, people bleed and die. These are not people. You're but another consort of demons standing amongst the damned as they're just walking on this path. It's wicked. Again, just Stephen Ogg killing it. He says she, Nella, that is, should be thanking her God for us being here to stop what's coming. This prompts Damon to stand up and tell Blaine, she said leave. And Blaine kind of leans in and sniffs him and says he smells of pagan rot.
Which, do they smell? Was that ever discussed? Yeah. Do they smell different?
So my theory is that the longer they were dead, the more they do. Aaron and I have not discussed this, but personally, I think because there's one aspect of this that and maybe we do more, is that I kind of wish that let me rephrase this. We're trying to be careful not to make this too zombie-ish, right? But there is this world where it's like, I kind of wish that we had someone who died like right before the 2 week was walking around and like pretty gross, like almost looking like Mr. Shaw in the pilot. I wish we had a dude. Maybe we'll do this later because we're gonna have a bunch of revivers. But there is that sense that, there's a 2 week period. So like, if you're M, you look perfectly normal. You died near revival day. So, but then there's other people who 2 weeks later wouldn't.
And if you look at Jordan, for example, she's very pale. Yeah. So Jordan is very pale. So like there is some of this that's played at the when people were coming out of the crematorium and the graves, which by the way, because I've seen comments, not everybody was coming out of graves at that time. Okay. They're just wandering around where the crematorium was. The morgue was there and there's tons of bodies that were pounding and have come out. Okay. So not everybody's getting out. A couple did because they're brushing off dirt, but yeah, okay, people, like Reddit, little 14-year-old Reddit kids. The idea that like we would have made a mistake like this is just completely insane. But anyway, yes, there is stuff like that. We actually had a ton of discussions about all those scenarios where revivers would be. And because there's so much going on and so much plot that's there, we didn't really have the time to kind of explore all that. We really would love to in a season 2. One of which I'll just say as an anecdote really quick was I wanted to show someone, this was always meant to be like in the lab, was someone who was cremated. And what does that, and then that you'll see like this big tube and you'll see like the ashes and it's getting fleshy and it's slowly turning and it's taking 2 months, 3 months for them to actually
what if
fully
that's where the
back.
Smoke monster from Lost came from?
Okay, I know where the smoke monster from Lost came from. It is explained multiple times.
Some things are not, but so far Aaron has cited 2 things that were explained almost.
Not so sorry.
But someone cited back in episode 1 or 2 too about the burned man, how like, why is he burned? Shouldn't he have done it? He goes, no, they clearly... He started to burn and then revive.
So that's I've had to clarify this a couple times because there's the idea that they're healing to the point that they were revived, not necessarily that they died, but to the point that they revived. Yeah. So whatever state, which goes to this conversation, whatever state they were in when they woke up is the state that they are basically healing to.
A few times I've seen that even other fans do correct these people. Like, no, he was starting to burn, then woke up. So the burns stick.
Yeah. Well, and M even says it because when she figures out that she could not have fallen or jumped from the bridge, it's because her bones would have been broken at that moment. And then they would still, you know what I mean? So when she woke up, her bones would have been broken. Like, it's just, there's all these clues that are there.
She'd be carried around on Kay's back like 3PO.
Yeah. She would have been like
she would be all like
a noodle lady.
Broken bones, yeah.
Yes. But this is, there's a lot of really fun things to explore in what ifs. I mean, one of the what ifs was like the Miles Miller, which is like you die in prison with a lifetime sentence. And what does that mean? There's a reference to someone in a future episode who lost their social security because they died and now they need it at their back. I'm like, well, you know what I mean? So what does that mean? And it's affecting them personally. So there's some things like this that were fun to explore, but just were like 27th on the list of priorities that we had to kind of get through, but are fun to think about and absolutely something that we want to continue to world build. I mean, honestly, if we just had like 47 minutes, I mean, the first episode's 47. After that, everything had to be 41. If we just had 5 more minutes an episode, the amount of things we would have done with things like this and other backstories and fun stuff. And Wayne would have had great anecdotes about her hair, and all this, but yeah, would have been fun.
Ogg's character Blaine with one more line here about you're one of the damned going to hell, so you should be taking a good look at me because I'm going to be sending you back. At this point, Damon does charge at him, but stepping in front of Blaine, the young man we've referenced a few times as not seeming as gung-ho as the other men in Blaine's little army here, we will come to know this guy as Tyler. Tyler says to Damon, don't hurt him. And, Damon actually ends up shoving him with his reviver string several feet across the room, right into a pole that breaks something in Tyler's arm here. Damon immediately regrets the move and apologizes, saying he didn't realize his own strength, at which point Blaine hovers over him, even patting him on the shoulders here and saying, "We're coming for you. They're starting to show their true colors, boys."
Yeah. So I think there's things to clock in this little moment here. Number one, I think the idea of like reviver support group, which was in the comic, it is a cool thing. And I think there's something and another thing I wish we could explore a little bit more. And it's also great to have any scenes with Lynette Ware, who plays Nella. She has such a great presence and is a character we want to continue to build on in future seasons, and seeing how the world's reacting to this, but also seeing that they're explaining that they feel like there's something missing in them, which I do think is worth flagging. And then also seeing that this strength is not just Arlene, right? We're seeing stuff here. You're seeing evidence of this in multiple people. M, when in episode 4, when she pushes Aaron up against the tree, like, okay, she's got legit strength here and what's going on. And the way Damon does this, and they're having these like last shot reactions. So there is something that's going on with that. So we are kind of establishing a world of where revivers do have this strength that exists as well. And it's mildly alluded to very quickly when Ibrahim in episode 2 is turning the corner to look for Arlene. And he's talking about how when you lose these pain thresholds, it allows you, like, strength is actually, sometimes it's mental as far as what stuff is. And if you don't have the pain thresholds, you'll push through where those strength barriers would be, and just like physiologically how things are kind of created. So he talks about a little bit of that, which is part of at least his theory and justification for what's happening there. But yeah, so revivers are strong. They're feeling a little empty, feeling a little sad, and Blaine's bad. But I think you knew that part.
Yeah. Oh, we can stop the podcast now. You just did.
Yep, Blaine is bad.
Yeah.
I am willing to say at episode 5, Blaine is bad.
Blaine is bad.
Yeah. We return to the M&K stoner buddy comedy hijinks hour, as we've talked about. They are outside the morgue, and M gashes her tire with a knife. K remarks, "Shit, you're strong." And M kind of relays the plan out loud, and we sort of see it play out as she's talking about it. You're the distraction. And this brings out good old Randy again to assist with the changing of the tire while M attempts to sneak in. Randy with a hilarious bit about here, like, it's on Reddit. Without even a beat, he goes, "You go on Reddit?"
Yeah.
So many options to choose from there.
Yeah.
He just riffed.
It was perfect.
And we had that was like one of 5 different hilarious moments.
Yeah. We ended up having a little bit of time at the end of this night. It was weird because it was raining the whole night. So we actually shot this the same time that we shot Dana coming out of the car, which she sees Jordan and the pilot in the first episode. We shot these 2 pieces together in the same area. And because it's right in front of where the morgue is. And I remember, and so weirdly enough, sometimes when it's raining, you work faster because you kind of want to get out of the rain, right? Yeah. So we actually kind of got ahead a little bit in a moment. And then we were there, and I remember talking to Graham Barrett, who plays Randy, and we're in this tent with Kay, and I'm like, all right, just go. Like, here's what she's going to say. And, it's like, these lug nuts are so tough, whatever. And you're going to have whatever opportunities you want. And we had so many written. I don't even remember what was written, but I was like, who cares? Don't worry about that. Like, you go. So he's like, okay. And he went and he wrote so many things. And he first ran them by me. And I was like, okay, I don't think we're allowed to say that. That's hilarious, but that's going to take way too long for the payoff of the joke. So then I limited it, crushed him down to 5 or 6. And we just kept doing takes. I literally ruined, I think, 2 of the takes, myself laughing, but it was really fun. And then when we kind of came down to it, and then sadly, when we were cutting this whole episode, we cut this moment because we had to just get them inside because we were so running for time. And then there was another thing, and we were able to kind of move something back in. And I remember we had I think I can remember what it was. We had 10 seconds that we could use. And I was like, oh, get the Randy back in. And then the Reddit one was one of the shorter jokes that were there.
I'm glad you did.
But it's so funny. It's just so to hit on a girl in 2008 again, peak, right? To hit on a girl with you go on Reddit, and he's also mansplaining. Lefty Lucy is not it's just so much, so quick. It's so Randy. I love it. It is amazing. So good.
As we said, M is kind of voiceovering this plan as we do watch it unfold. She's sneaking in to get some of Aaron's blood on the bullet. And since the shooter shot everybody, they can find the bullet, they can find the shooter. Voila, that's kind of M's whole thing here that she was sort of piecing together. She'll fix it all. We do see M slide Aaron's corpse out, is about to get, a dab of the bullet in his wound. And Kay walks in saying she cannot handle Randy just from those exchanges and is using the bathroom as an excuse, which I think M says something like, oh, that would have been a better option. Just
they're 20-year-old kids. kids who get high. Like, they're not good at heists, you know, and what this is. Like, that's what's funny. I was like, oh, that would work too.
Wayne is now in the hospital room talking to Dana, who is still out, about the case. He does say, you know, he's a little vulnerable here. He says he needs her help with this. Wish you to come to me if you were in trouble. And then kind of asides, you know, I'm sure it was my fault. Mom always said I was too hard on you, but you got to come out of this. So nice moment for David there.
If I was Dana in this situation, I would pretend to sleep for 100 years. I would never get out of that bed. I would pretend to be in a coma. She's doing it right.
Yeah, just to get that affection in a little moment.
Right?
Yeah, this is back to what Luke was saying earlier, and that trying to start to show shades of that these are real people. And, you know, Wayne is, I think he has some funny lines. There's some relatable moments for a boomer ideal. But I think showing that he is human and there's heart here and there's a callousness to this that he has to then peel back and realize that there's heart. And I think that's really important. Wayne just kind of becomes a villain otherwise, you know, and but that's just credit to, I remember David was, part of what he says, he was nervous about this episode. And I remember in this moment, and he just kept wanting feedback on the take, like, how am I doing, whatever. And I'm like, no, you don't have to go this far. You just stay in this zone. And he was wonderful, just so wonderful. And it's like just enough. Even things like the way that he reaches to touch her hand and he like can't, you know, and the hesitation of that and like how he sits, it just like a posturing, like all this is just really, really good because he was avoiding this, right? He has to leave the hospital. He's like, you know, what happens when she's in surgery there, they would have been allowed to go in to see her, but they're not letting him. He's like, oh, I got to go work. I can't do it. You know, he's running from his problems. And again, that will continue throughout this series.
Yes. Wayne is now walking through the police station when Gunderson hits him up and says that Aaron was, via the autopsy, that he was choked before he was shot. So what about the GSR results? Which Gunderson says, well, that was an honest mistake, speaking of Randy. You know, Randy, ever since that man woke up in his incinerator, he's been a little bit all over the place. So excusing some due diligence from Randy. He also tells Wayne that the last text Aaron sent before he died was to Dana, and, you know, recites it saying, go to the woods behind Pacers. I'll tell you what really happened, which really does get Wayne's attention here. Back to M and K. They are now at the crime scene. M is trying to find just the right spot to drop the bullet so it doesn't look like it was moved or, you know, shenanigans had happened at all. That's when her phone buzzes. She's told that Dana is awake. Kay with a little funny bit here by putting out the cigarette, like she's aware, like I don't want to leave the trace either. They do hear the commotion in the distance and the dogs barking, so they do quickly flee the scene before the cops do arrive there to resweep the area.
I do want to flag one line there that I think is really funny, which is like, I've never dealt with this much trauma or whatever it is. Oh, yeah. And then I've said it to Katie before. It's an actual line that I've said to Katie. I'm like, if this is the most you've dealt with, and we've lived a very privileged life, you know, because we're like, this is the worst thing ever. And I'm like, if this is the worst thing we've been through, we've lived a very privileged life. But I think, and the way that
to myself.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, because it's true. We have lived very privileged lives. And so it's just like a thing to remind. But I love K's, you know, like, that's fair. That's fair. You're onto something. It's so great. It's so natural.
I'm glad she's here. I'm glad that you're going to have more of her. We are now on Ibrahim reciting his theory into his voice recorder. He still posits that the Moore Creek is ground zero for Revival Day. Wayne walks in and just demands answers about what happened to Dana. You know, are you sure about the direction of the gunfire? Are you sure you didn't see a strange car? Ibrahim hesitates and Wayne says, you know, there is something else. What aren't you telling me? Before they can kind of continue that, though, a bellow rings out from the test facility that we saw Miles in earlier. It is Miles himself. He's crying out in pain, yelling, get it out, please. I think he says that a few times over. This sends Ibrahim in to find out what's going on. And Wayne follows suit behind him. We see Carla relaying to a fellow tester that, you know, they've increased the dosage on the subject. Ibrahim steps in to remove the injections from Miles. Again, moral compass. He is always attempting to do the right thing. He immediately wants to get this guy out of pain. We see Miles' arms begin to heal up from the multiple lacerations. Dr. Ramin does ask, what are you doing? She says, we're giving him crotolase. And he's like, snake venom? Yeah, we're testing more extreme ranges of pathogens. And then she kind of plays it like, well, you know, to see if the sheriff can get the answers he needs, you know, pivoting it to him. And like, she does say that, you know, it dramatically is slowing Reviver healing properties so far. To which Wayne jumps in saying, you know, so they are dangerous. Ibrahim does not like them jumping to conclusions. You know, Wayne tells her good work, but he does say, you know, let's step back from this direction just for a minute here. So
give my props to Heather on this episode because it's probably our most science technical heavy episode between the gunshots and the ballistics and the snake venom and all this other stuff. Heather was our researcher in the writer's room. She's kind of our designated researcher, and she's really good at it. It's one of the many reasons we hired her. She's a great writer, and she's just really, really good about this kind of thing. So she just she really kind of stepped up and helped kind of figure a lot of this stuff out and did a ton of research for this particular episode between the gun and all this other stuff. So yeah, just have to call that out. And
there's a lot of minutia of tech stuff.
There is.
Said weapons, flashlights we'll get to. Like there's so much.
Yeah, exactly. The flashlight. Yes.
So the research was certainly, it's shown on the sleeve here for sure.
Yeah.
We are in the hospital room, and Dana is indeed awake, and Em is sitting with her, eating pudding and fruit cups. They have a nice little sisterly exchange, but it doesn't take long for Dana to kind of get right back to business and ask, do they know who did it? Why were you there, Em? Em says she was right about Aaron. He was on the bridge that night, and, she really thought that he killed her, even though he swore till the moment he died that he did not. So do you think, he meant for you to be there, Dana? Then she kind of breaks down almost saying, like, what if I'm the reason you almost died? Dana just says, we'll figure it out together. But Em's like, no. And to Aaron's point, one of the themes here is, she says to Dana, I think it's time I start taking care of you.
Yeah, it's just really special with I love the scene with them together in the hospital room there. I think it's just a really, really beautiful moment just to get in the bed and then they embrace, and the way that Mel kind of plays how are you going to do that? And it's I have my ways. Right. And we know that she's already gone through these hijinks, to do this. It's just a really sweet sister moment. And I think the sister moments, above and beyond anything else that happens in the entire show, it's what are your sister moments? Episode to episode to episode. And every single episode has one, and they're important and they have to land. And I just think that this is a great one, and credit to, I love the coyness of how Romy plays it in the bed, and she's so proud. Yeah.
At the station, JP tells Wayne the bullet's a .45, consistent with the injuries of the victim. Jeannie finally catches Wayne alone and asks if he's talked to Lester yet. She says he apparently saw someone suspicious on the night of the shooting. At that point, we do cut to Lester finally in Wayne's office explaining the night that someone did walk across his property. So he heard 2 gunshots, then another 2 gunshots, then saw a man in black and a black ski mask, tactical boots and pants, and a particular flashlight, which does begin, to you guys' point about Heather, the most detailed flashlight conversation maybe ever put to film, digital or otherwise. But I loved it. It, rings a bell to Wayne, of course. He pulls out his own police-issued torch and kind of asks if it's like this. Lester says exactly like that. Wayne walks out, finds Gunderson. He says Lester saw the gunman. It's a cop. Run ballistics on everybody's firearm. His, Wayne's, evidence logs, vehicle sweeps, everything. Lester then taps the office window and yells, I got more. Which is a funny bit here.
I got to call something out, an Easter egg. Lester does name check Chuck, his dog from the comic. It was very sad. We were going to have Chuck. Chuck was in the multiple Lester scenes. We could not get any animals on set. Basically, there was logistically could not happen. We had to get someone from the Humane Society. Was that right? Or
yeah, it was from the Humane Society there to actually, we had to fly them to New Brunswick, and there weren't animal wranglers in New Brunswick.
Right.
So it was so hard. So actually the first scene with Blaine, when you first meet Blaine and that trap comes up, the trap was actually catching, there was another trap with a rabbit that was there. And you see Blaine, and then he holds the rabbit, looks like he's going to do something, and then he lets the rabbit go. And then he puts the trap back up. And that was the original end of that first scene of episode 2. And then here, we were actually going to show Lester walking with his dog, Chuck, by this water. And then you hear the gunshots and you see Lester react to those gunshots. So with the dog. So that was a scene that was in the script all the way through. And, and you see a flashlight in the distance for feeling that. And we wanted to have that scene for a variety of reasons. And
then Clarence stepped in and said, no, Wausau's got 4 dogs named Chuck.
The dogs might sue you.
Yes. I mean,
yeah. It's such a thing. Also, oddly enough, we reference Aaron Sorkin here. I remember when we were doing this sequence, I was like, I wanted this to feel like an Aaron Sorkin kind of rant. And at one point, one thing that Sorkin does really, really well is the specificity of something, right? And that these characters go into these intelligent rants that are unbelievably specific. So Lester does this as well in episode 1 when she calls about the truck. It's like, well, I used to have a Ford, this, whatever. And now I have
my cousin Vinny's all the specifics of the tire treads and the yes.
That whole thing, right? So that's a thing that he does, and we have that he's very detail oriented, and he also does not like shit on his property. That's we stop with that too, which old rich dudes don't. want people messing around their property. Like, that's the thing. So, and that's a fun thing that we play with actually in future episodes too, where Lester's always complaining.
He's got a lot of property too.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, he owns a lot of property.
He does yell, "I got more." We do not see exactly what he says just yet. We actually jump to the middle of a conference call with Carla and Ibrahim actually talking to the governor. She is siding with Carla on her line of investigation here. And if he's obstructing her and the sheriff's goals, Ibrahim that is, then a leadership change is in order. She essentially demotes Ramin right here, Dr. Ramin, and replaces his role with Carla. Carla exits, but before Ibrahim does leave, he stands up and he grabs some of the soil and water samples he's found the anomalies in. So, Andy McQueen's character here he's going through it. He's got the kind of the gamut of emotions and reactions in this episode.
Yeah, I do want to call something out because I've noticed a lot of people pointing out that a governor could not technically fire or make a personnel change in the CDC, which is true. But the language there is a little, I think, confusing in that sense because she's not firing him. He's not fired. She's basically just giving Carla permission to continue. And basically she's kind of going, we need to clarify that Ibrahim is a liaison here. He's meant to sort of be a middleman between the agency and the governor. So she's kind of just saying, well, I'm just going to listen to Carla and not you, essentially.
Yeah, because there's a person designated for the state. So and this happened in COVID, CDC would have different liaisons in states. And then the states, right, the governors of the states are working with those CDC liaisons for what is needed. That's what Ibrahim is. And they're working directly with the governor. I mean, that they report to a federal level, but they also have state needs. And she gets to decide what she wants with some of her state stuff that's there, because these are her citizens, right? And allowing them. So it's not like he's being fired or she's doing that. Yes, that is what's happening.
And anybody who has a hang up about a governor of a state or a governor of a country just making crazy demands and leadership changes, watch the news for 5 minutes. But that seems like a weird thing to be hung up on. Like, that person can't replace a leader. Okay.
Finding out they can do whatever they want, actually.
Back at the station, the officers, unfortunately. The officers are, surrendering their pieces for the ballistic inspections. That's just a quick, shot to show that story is still progressing per Wayne's instruction. The burn man is now inside a home in the evening hours here, breaking and entering. He opens a file cabinet and pulls a file containing a police report, once again with the name Jesse Blackdeer about that incident. He grabs the entire folder, flashlight in the mouth actually, and he bolts out of there.
This is Dana's home.
Yes.
I've noticed a couple of people didn't catch that. I've seen several comments say, whose home is this? It's Dana's home. He's in Dana's.
It's the Blackdeer case. So why?
And you'll, look, as the episodes go, sometimes we're going to be a little ahead of the audience at certain moments, which is deliberate, right? So those things will come to you, even if you don't know at this moment, because in episode 6, you will very clearly know that this was Dana's home. It's discussed. But also, I would say what he's seeing there, you see an image of Rose Blackdeer. So there's a woman there, and if you were to pause, you could see there's a picture played by Lena Robinson, who's now on 47 Acres, which is out now in theaters, by the way, one of the leads of that movie. She's a great actress. But so you'll see that for the first time, which all we know about Rose Blackdeer is it's the first time we're actually seeing a name or seeing a picture. But this is, Jesse, there was a reference that Rhodey had, I think it was at episode 3 or 4, where they're talking about, the Blackdeer case that had messed up for Dana. And he says, that guy that killed his daughter. That's what that case, so that if you remember that reference, this is an image of that daughter who is now deceased.
Blaine, we're back to Blaine Abel. He is now holding court over his group in a room in his compound here. They are chanting, beating a drum. Blaine tells young Tyler that it is time for him to get branded, saying, "Go in, give your hand to the guiding light. May it burn away your sins and you become one of us." Tyler then enters through a curtain to a room that we do not get a great look at by design here, but we do hear wild noises, not unlike the humming growls of either a chicken, a lobster. We'll see. Something similar to what we heard outside the tent here, and a very bright light of some kind. We cut back to the room where we hear Tyler yell out at the branding. He does return out to the group, and Blaine holds up his hand, and Tyler kind of gets into it, and the rest follow suit. So he is initiated officially here.
It's a shitty frat. Yeah.
Can I tell you my dumb theory? I'm just going to talk. You can cut this out. You can cut this out. You can cut this out.
The floor is yours.
Okay. I was like, the whole episode, I was like, I think that guy, I think that nervous dude, I think he's the reviver, but he's hooking up with the bad boys so he doesn't get killed. Please cut this out.
No, hold on. No. We like theories are part of the whole thing.
And so he looks so nervous all the time. And I was like, they're going to sit. But if he gets the burn marks, if he's a reviver, they will go away. But they didn't go away. Anyway, I'm talking through it. So
maybe he has a close personal relation to a reviver. We don't know. We'll pause it more on that as in the coming.
Yeah,
I will say there are rules that have been established that are different than anything in the comic with what is behind this curtain.
Yeah.
We have changed up what the thing behind the curtain, the sound, the burning of the hands, whatever is there. We have changed up what that is and its full, what it means to the people of Wausau in general, I would say.
I like watching you talk around it.
Yes,
yeah.
Well, because like if you can leave this in, I think there's value to that. And I think for comic readers, it was because again, we talked about this, I think in the very first episode. There are things in the comic that we know people are expecting. So we want to set them up so that they're like, oh, that's going to be this thing in the comic that I've seen and I understand, right? And then it's going to feel like that thing until you realize it's not that thing. And that is very deliberate and was fun. And I hope it's enjoyable for the comic fans because it's like ways of using the things in the comics, but maybe not in the way that you expected, which I think was fun because it's not a one-to-one, but it's so much is in there.
There's
fun.
So much you want to say.
Yeah, I will say a lot happens in the very next episode. A lot. It is our second pilot, as we always said. It is the episode that changes everything. It is the whole show is moving this way, and then the show turns on a dime. It is, I think, Luke and I, maybe our favorite episode of the season, one of our favorites, a minimum, and extremely proud of it. You know, it was one that we were outlining things to happen, and Luke and I talked about like, oh, okay, episode 6, which is the perfect place to like have your quote unquote second pilot where, and this happens a lot of shows, you'll notice that are, 10 episode seasons or 10, 12, they'll get into that like 5 to 7 range. Something huge happens and it changes the direction. And I think that's what makes it interesting. And so that is very much what happened. And on multiple levels, topics we're talking about, topics we're not talking about, stakes get super raised, things happen not in the comics. Some things that happen from the comics is crazy. It's crazy. But a lot, it'll start to it'll help. It actually might at first to be like, wait a second. I think I know how these things behind the curtain work. And then you're going to see something here and like, okay, I think I do know how it works. But then I'm like, wait, no, but I don't know how it works. But then like, what is this? So it's going to be fun. There'll be, I can't wait for people to get to that episode.
Yeah.
We are almost there ourselves here. Two more final scenes. Dana now opening a gift in her hospital bed from Ibrahim. It's a kind of gag here where she sees it's a coloring book and kind of makes an aside. He goes, oh, that would be for Cooper. The other one's for you. But she's glad to see him. She thanks him for lying for her, but it did protect her sister. Andy and Melanie are great here. He mentions, he might have to leave Wausau. And he's like, wait, would that make you sad? I'd actually still like to do date number 3, despite striking out horribly for various reasons. But yeah, don't bring a gun this time.
Yeah. And then one of my favorite lines that contributed to the show, which was, shoot your shot. Unless you shot me, then don't shoot. Wrong choice of words or whatever. I just think is really, really, their delivery of it is what makes it work.
And in line with Dana, who also did the wait, can I not say that now to M a few episodes back?
Yeah, which was really, really fun. Yeah, this was a scene that, the first edit of this scene, I was like, wow, this is so powerful. Yeah. And Andy's smile melts me. I just think it's so, there's just something about his big smile at the very end of that scene that I think is just so powerful. It's a great scene and it really, you feel their camaraderie and you feel what, Andy is like, am I really going to go through this shit? Like it's not going well for him, but I dig this girl, and everyone's been there at some point, right? Of like, oh, I'm not going to go through all this, but I like them, and you end up doing some crazy things. So
joining a church, becoming a Cubs fan, becoming a fan of a band you'd have never considered. Well, not that that's any of us in this room, but we've all been there.
There's this thing where it's like Ibrahim is now sort of been caught up in the Cypress tornado, and he's kind of going, okay, I made it through. It's kind of fun. Maybe we'll try it again. So I just love that. It's a fun moment for Ibrahim, who is going to go into, he doesn't even realize where he's about to go. So I won't say anything, but it's sort of a tip off to future great Ibrahim stuff.
And in our final moment here, we do see Officer McCrae, piece of shit that he is, having a snack in his car and rocking out to a deep cut of a tune. And, Barbara Norris's Because You Believed in Me. He's making a nice meal out of that, singing along. But before long, we get police lights and sirens behind him. At this point, we intercut Gunderson actually sharing the news with Dana about what we're witnessing unfold, which is that McCrae, piece of shit that he is the one whose gun matched the ballistics. And not only that, they found in his trunk a few coolers of body parts. It goes to black on an officer kind of raising up a sealed bloody bag, to which Gunderson asks, "Is that a foot?"
Yeah. I got whiplash in the last 5 minutes. I was like, needed to take a nap.
I love the theories. I've read a couple. It's so funny because people don't quite know. And the clues are there. But they're like, why? If it's organ harvesting, why is it a foot and things like? And it's wonderful, and this makes me even more excited for people to see what's about to come.
It's really fun. Yeah, it's this is another one of those staples from the comic. Yeah. It's a thing that we knew was going to happen. We were going to get to this point and what's going on. But also, getting our first piece of who shot Dana, is a big part of this episode and what's there. And also, Shawn, thank you for referencing that Barbara Norris song. So that all came from Asha and Jody, who's our music supervisors, and they sent over a list of stuff. And I was like, look, we have to have a song right now. We're about to shoot this scene, and I need him to sing the song. I want McCrae, played by Nate Dells, Letterkenny's Nate Dells, to do this, and saying we had to find something. And then I heard this, and I was like, oh my god, this feels like one of those more music from Boogie Nights songs. It just had this, and we fell in love with it. We fell in love with it. It's not a very well-known song. Fell in love with it. And then it also hits for the credits too, which was great to bring it back in. But yeah, I love Nate's performance of that and what's going on. And this was a tough one to edit. I remember we were kind of crafting this a number of different ways. There were more things that were happening that got cut here at the end of this sequence. But then we were able to kind of structure it and you're never going to believe what we found with him. And I think it's a different kind of cliffhanger. Before we've had these big ones related to M's murder, and maybe this isn't. It's not necessarily like this foot. It's not M's foot. You know what I mean? So I can tell you that. So
breaking news.
Yeah. So, but it is kind of like we're building out. There's a lot of shit going on in this town, but there will be immediate ramifications of, as I not aptly, but horribly said on Twitter, something is afoot. And
nice.
Yeah, not nice. Don't condone.
No. The worst pun is still a pun. It's still fun.
I'm
down for it. This is the first episode that I actually did watch on the Sci-Fi feed, Sci-Fi on demand, if you're catching it on cable ahead of time. And at the end of this episode, I will say that the preview for 106 does feel like a reset because it did not feel like anything picking up from what we've seen so far. Very heavy on the checks without spoiling, but people who are watching this are going to get to it pretty quickly, or people who are listening to this recap are probably going to get to it rather quickly. But yeah, I will tell you the way that Sci-Fi ends the promo, it says literally, watch CM Punk next week on Revival. So they are leading into him.
Yeah, they sent it. Yeah, they sent us that promo, and we approve all the promos. I mean, it is his episode. This is you've been waiting. This is the CM Punk episode upcoming. 100%.
I get it.
Yeah, we've been building to something, and I believe it will pay off.
Yeah.
So
But yeah,
it cray.
I can't wait.
I'm nervous.
Yeah, this the whole time I've been waiting to get. I mean, truly, it's because you see, we have the endings of these other episodes, and what? And people are like, oh, and all this stuff in these things, and I'm like, oh my god, if we're getting that reaction now, when this happens, it's gonna blow their minds. And this is also the first episode directed by Samir Rahim, and it's an action episode. I will say too. It is fast paced. At one point, we talked about it all being in real time as well, and it didn't quite work to that level. But
24-hour style,
yeah. Anyway, so not to talk too much about 6, but it is.
Stay tuned for that for sure.
It plays into it. Yeah, it plays into everything you're seeing here.
Yeah, when we were writing early on, we were I think Sugar was airing, and their episode 6 has got, I won't spoil anything there if you haven't seen it, but it's massive. It's a huge shift. I remember saying, that's what we want to do. We want to do something where we have lulled you into an expectation of what this is, and now we're going to just completely turn it around. We're going to say, nope, don't get comfortable. So
yeah.
Can't wait.
No, excited for it for sure. We'll talk some of the theories that we've seen online from this episode Triage on the other side of things here, but we will let the gentlemen go. Back to it. They are as we're recording this with you folks, are you finishing episode 10 as we speak?
We are. Mm-hmm. Yeah, finishing up 10. So 9 is there's like a couple small tweaks to make. 10 is still going through it a little bit, but we're at the end. We're at the very end. So
very cool.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I will say, like, everybody's supported the show and seeing the response so far does make us like, don't fumble the ball at the end here, like, so that's we don't want to be like Miles Turner and like mess up everything we've done previously, traitor. So yeah, I want to change the name Miles Miller now because of what Miles Turner has done, right? Like all his Legos are going to crumble.
Clearance says you cannot do that.
Yeah, well,
yes.
Let's see.
All right.
Clear this.
Yes. Crazy things to come. Or it cray, as Aaron said. Or McCray, that piece of shit.
They forgot about Cray.
There you go.
They forgot about McCray. That's what I should have done. Shit.
A crane is a bird. Oh, wait, we're doing that again. All right, we'll let you go for real.
Here we go.
We're done. Thank you both, guys. We'll talk to you. We can't wait to talk about episode 6 with you next one.
Damn. Cool. Thanks, guys.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you again to the gents for the discussion on episode 5. We are moving now to a chat with an actor, a Canadian Screen Awards nominee, no less, who you may have seen in films including Disappearance at Clifton Hill, which is what garnered him actually a supporting actor nod, series including Outer Banks and Mrs. Davis. But if you're watching this, you may very well know him best as Revival's CDC scientist and the show's moral compass, as was stated by Luke and Aaron, Dr. Ibrahim. He is Andy McQueen. Andy, thank you so much for joining us on the program here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
No, we're excited to talk to you for sure in this, what was an Andy-heavy episode. A lot of great moments with the character in this one.
Oh, yeah. This is episode 5. Wow. We're already halfway there, huh? That's pretty wild.
Yeah. We've had to give a little reset to some of the guests because you guys shot it in such a jumble, and they even talked about how the scene with you and M over the hospital bed of Dana was the very first thing, lots of eyes on it and all that, and it was episode 5. So, just block shooting could be funky. So
that was our first day, our first scene, I believe. Also, in this episode, I believe it's the first day right after that scene was the scene with Mel when she's in the hospital bed, giving her the presents for Cooper, which is wild to think. When you look at it, you never know how it's all going to cut together, but it's crazy to think that was the first day. And it feels like, looking at it now, we all had such a great rapport already, which was, it's half the battle, I think.
No, 100%. Making sure those character dynamics work with the main kind of core 4 or 5 top leads, especially the Cypress family. But again, you being even called an interloper in this episode, you sort of are the outsider in so many ways as that character. But before we kind of jump into the episode specific, we want to ask you, we were starting to get into chats before we even jumped on here, but was acting always the path for you? I know you've been an actor, you went to school for acting, but like, did you know early on that was it, or were you heading down a different way and then this kind of was a pivot?
I would say that it was always a thing that I wanted to do since I was young. I went to an arts high school as well. I was just talking with a friend the other day about it. We were remembering that 24 years ago, we auditioned for this high school in Ontario, in Unionville, Ontario, called Unionville High School for the Arts. And actually, fun fact, Hayden Christensen had just graduated from Unionville High School, an art school, and had just gotten the role of Anakin Skywalker. And so all us young drama kids in grade 9, first year high school, we were pretty impressed. So to answer that question, I've always wanted to be an actor. I did, move around a bit, but I eventually found myself in it and committed to it for the last, I guess, 14 years, I'd say. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Let's do the math on how old Andy is.
Yeah.
I think you can Google it. Some things say I'm 32, but I am 37. So for the IMDb facts.
Did you choose this show, Revival, or did it choose you? Did you audition? Did someone send it to you? How did you find each other?
I did. I think it was like a week before it started filming, or 2 weeks before it started filming. I had heard that the show was still looking for this character. I know that there was, things that were out of my control with regards to where this thing was going, how it was playing out. But I had looked up Aaron and Luke's work, and I had read the script, and I was very much a fan of the writing of the character. I took a look at the comic, and so I sent a message asking about if it was, if there was still time. And lo and behold, there was still a little bit of time, and so I put together a tape, and the rest is history. So I sort of lucked out. They say it's a lot of things in order to get a role, and so a lot of things came together, and fortunately for me to get to be a part of this show. And I'm very excited and happy that it worked out that way, because obviously it doesn't always, but So I'd say that I chose the show and then the show chose me, somewhere along those lines.
Yeah. It was waiting for you. Yeah. Okay. You could have just said that.
Yeah.
Outside of acting, do you have any things that you like geek out about that might surprise people?
Oh, interesting. I love to play guitar. I actually, when I was in New Brunswick when we were shooting Revival, I had rented a guitar just to play while I was there. And also I love photography, which, New Brunswick also is very sort of, is good for because it's such a beautiful place.
Yeah, I did stalk your Instagram a little bit and see that you were taking pickies.
Yeah, I do love photography. It's one of my favorite things to do. Film photography and guitar. Yeah.
Any particular musical influence that got you into guitar or something you kind of tinge toward? Is it more electric, more acoustic, more?
Very acoustic, very sad. I think, when I was in high school, all the kids were playing Blackbird and they were playing Time of Your Life, of course, or The General by Dispatch. And so my musical influences and which continue to be my musical influences are, artists like Gregory Alan Isakov, very folky, very sad acoustic guitar music. Yeah.
Got it. Elliott Smith, Stab Yourself in the Heart.
Elliott Smith from A Basement on a Hill. That was actually a high school album that I listened to. Very, very sad.
Okay.
Yeah, Miss Misery. Yeah, that exact thing. Yeah, we got it.
So I really empathize with Ibrahim in this episode, panicking about being a bad liar and having to lie the entire episode because I am a terrible liar and it wouldn't have worked out for me. But I was wondering, how would real you handle that, do you think?
I think real me would have had no problem lying. Ibrahim, of course, very different in so many ways. But, as a person, I think given the circumstances, it would have been something for myself much easier to do. But if I were in that circumstance, Ibrahim, new to town, not quite sure what's going on or what's what, you never know. But I would like to think that I would have handled it better myself as Andy, as opposed to Ibrahim. But I will also give shout out to Ibrahim and how it's dealt with in the show. This is sort of the turning point for him in terms of how he deals with things or how he deals with this conflict head on, knowing all that he knows or doesn't know at this point. I think that it's a great sort of moment for him to build some character and some strength going forward.
Yeah, he had me sweating. I was nervous for him.
No, for sure. He's sweating too from all the layers he's wearing. He seems like he's always not just in the big coat like everybody else, but in like a suit and a jacket and other things.
That's a funny story because, like I said, that first day we shot that scene in the hospital, and there was a discussion about whether I would have the coat on or the coat off, and whether the sleeves would be rolled up and the tie loose. And I think I had made that decision early on that if we were shooting that scene now, that means that everything that precedes it, including the conversation with Mark Little in that room, which we shot much later, I think at the end of the block, that means it would have been taken off then. But I do think that, personally, the choice of having him keep on the coat kind of made me feel smaller as well. And also not as confident, not as, it made him feel like he was sort of, smaller in this town. And also, if I had done all those things, I think that it would have been way too cool. And I think the coat becomes a point of conversation from the beginning in that scene with Dana in the car. And she said, "This is a big coat." I was like, "Yep, it's a big coat." So maybe one day he takes it off, but it's definitely a fun thing to play with.
No, certainly. And they had mentioned again earlier, Ibrahim being the moral compass of the show, and they were writing everybody into their own kind of pickles and corners. And having Ibrahim lie for a girl, we've all been there. I think all of us like a band or like something because of a girlfriend. We've all faked our way into something for a lady that we like. So no different, I guess, in that situation that, he did it for Dana. So I think it's excusable. We've all been there.
Yeah, and I think it's so sweet. I think it's, obviously it shows his true nature and his true sort of motivation is warranted and is true. He's so, like you said, he is the moral compass in the sense that like everything he does for the right reasons. And I love that about this character. I love that he's in it for the right reasons.
You got to have a scene with each of the Cypress family members in this one, but did you have a favorite moment or scene or line or something that was just particularly fun or memorable to shoot in this episode, if you can remember?
Yeah, what's so funny? I think I was talking about all of this kind of is bringing up the one line. It's going back to what we were just talking about, but I'm not lying for you. I'm lying for Dana. I think it's so indicative, and also it was very helpful for me, knowing that we were shooting episode 5 the first day, that scene, for everything that comes before it and everything that sort of comes after it. I think it was super useful because sometimes, you always shoot things out of order and you get to that scene where it finally clicks and you finally are like, wow, this is exactly who my character is. And this is exactly why they do what they do. But having that scene be first, knowing that everything he does is because of Dana and for Dana, it's sort of like a cheat to have that from the beginning. And I feel like, that's a testament to the writing. That's a testament to Aaron, Luke, and the entire team of writers that came together to, like you said, write these characters into the pickles that they do and get them out of it somehow. And so super sort of blessed in that regard to like have been able to do that scene first and have that.
And she was like a sleeping beauty from
exactly.
the first day.
And exactly. and also, all of these things come with nerves too. So just working with everybody on that set also is just so much fun and a learning experience, to be working with new people and to have to create those kinds of, or that kind of chemistry so soon, that comes from just everybody being available, open, and like, just as hungry and all about the work. That makes it that much more exciting to be there on the day and get to play.
Yeah. Cool. And I mean, the guys did say you're kind of the Prince Charming. Although that's Snow White, right? That's not Sleeping Beauty. Sorry.
I think they're all Prince Charming. I think that's all the names.
I think it's Sleeping Beauties. My daughter's watched Sleeping Beauty a few times. I think it's Prince Philip.
Is it?
Either way. For sure. I do want to ask, I know, you've played a villain on Outer Banks in recent years here, and you played, kind of the moral compass, the beating heart, the sweetheart of this show. Is there kind of a dream role out there you haven't tackled yet, or something you'd really like to sink your teeth into you've not had the chance to do?
That's interesting. That's a good question. I feel like, going down the path that I'm going down and getting to play the roles that I'm getting to play, I think that certainly there are roles out there that I would love to play, but the ones that I've been able and fortunate enough to play right now, I feel like are in themselves dream roles. I mean, all of this is a dream to me. Again, I've been wanting to do this ever since I was a kid. And so seeing a show like Revival and being a part of something like this, to see a character that sort of has a beginning, middle, and an end, I would say that I would like to continue down that path of getting to play characters who have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and have some sort of impetus or drive. And when I was young and started out, it was never that way. It was, you played a role. They said, you want to play a bad guy? And I was like, yeah, for sure. I'll play a bad guy. And without any kind of, these 2-dimensional characters. And that's totally fine. And that's how everyone starts in some way. But now getting to play these kinds of characters who have a story, it's a lot of fun. So in a roundabout way to answer your question, I just hope to continue getting to do what I get to do now. And that's a lot of fun.
Is there any game show that you'd like to be on? Or like
a game show?
Yeah. Or like, do you think you'd be good at like Wheel of Fortune or like a reality show like Survivor?
I would be terrible. My wife and I talk about this all the time. I think I would be great on Big Brother, but obviously I would be terrible on Big Brother. I think I'm way too emotional to exist on Big Brother. Survivor, definitely, I don't think I can do, even though I heard the recent winner of Survivor was Guyanese. I'm Guyanese. And so there's a part of me that's like, maybe I could do this. But,
it's in your bones.
Traders seems like a lot of fun, but I don't think I would do well on a game show.
I would either.
Celebrity movie Jeopardy, maybe?
Yeah. We were just talking about that.
We just had an off-air conversation with the guys about pop culture Jeopardy and how like we need a third person who knows about reality TV to kind of fill that's our blind spot. So we got the movies and the music, the sports, the comics, the whole thing down. But so if you know Love Island, you'll be on our team.
I don't. I watch it from afar when my wife watches it, and they sort of like come in on later.
All right. Mrs. McQueen will be our third man. No, Andy, we do appreciate the time. Before we let you go, though, do you have anything you can plug or promote? Is there a website? Is there a social media you want to direct folks to if they want to find you? I know you said you're not the best at it, but just in case folks want to follow you.
Yeah, I'm just going to remember. It's I'm Andy McQueen. I am Andy McQueen on Instagram. And there are a few things coming out that I'm a part of. Just a small baby part, but a wonderful experience in Spike Lee's new movie, Highest to Lowest, which I believe is coming out in end of August. And some other stuff. But for now, Instagram, follow me and send me a message and let's talk about Revival, because it was an incredible experience with an incredible group of people in an incredible place, which is New Brunswick. And shout out Drifter Brew Co., because I gotta.
Got the
right
hat
here on the
Got
hat.
the hat. Got the merch.
Atlantic time zone businesses. Let's go.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for having me.
No, certainly. We thank you so much for the time. We're excited to see where this goes. You know, the fans and comments everywhere have been so effusive for your character. And again, the guys had nothing but just incredible praise, you know, for you. And it's deserved. We again, you are the beating heart of this show. So we're excited to see where he goes with Dana. We're excited to see where you go in your career. And again, grateful.
I'll be back anytime. If you want to have me back anytime, let me know. I'll be here.
Well,
Thanks for having me. We don't
know how the season ends, so if something goes crazy, we'll have you back.
Okay, cool. All right.
All right. Take care,
guys.
Andy. Again, thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
All right, we appreciate Andy McQueen for taking the time with us here. Episode 5, Triage, as we talked about, was heavy, Doc, but, you know, in the right ways, and he was a stellar part of it. So, as we do, we kind of talk some speculation. We talk some fun comments we found from the episode, as it has aired on Sci-Fi, and as you're hearing this on Peacock as well. I will say a lot of people not happy with Carla. A lot of expletives being thrown her way in this one. A lot of comments from people who picked up also on Deputy Brent Gunderson possibly being the one who dun. So, he brought flowers into Dana. She slaps him on the right arm. He yells, ouch. And everybody's like, she didn't hit him that hard. Wait a minute. Him hit the mass shooter in the woods in the right arm. So, yeah, a lot of people are convinced that Gunderson is the big old red herring of all of this. So, you know, and part of the conspiracy. And
you're just breaking this to me now.
Well, this did not come up with Aaron and Luke. I don't know if it was by design.
Oh, but, I wish they were here.
No, that's why we speculate.
Okay.
No, they're not going to answer, obviously.
Right. Okay.
You know, sometimes there's red herrings of red herrings, so we'll see.
Okay.
Maybe it's a deliberate red herring. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
That's part of the fun of being able to tangent away from the books a little bit, is that they say you're going to have some expectations and then some are going to throw you. Kay Mather being a nice example, as they talked about. Maya, who we've read a few comments from prior, chimed in on the TV Time thread, theorizing also that Brent might be the might be the one who shot, and went on to say, quote, there's another player, we don't know who he is, the guy that was being cremated, he's running around doing God knows what. The sheriff's just burning bridges left and right. At this point, even his kids are about to not be on his side. Like, I get diplomacy's not a strong suit, but he's lashing out at people for no damn reason, making zero allies in the department, borderline bullying employees. Yeah, I don't think the other guy would have any trouble making him lose the election. Get your shit together, Wayne.
He has trouble regulating his emotions, okay? He just...
So a man?
Yeah, right.
But you guys are too emotional to, be president and run for office. But.
That's true. Yeah, we bleed all the time. Jim Jacks on Twitter says, regarding Blaine, all right, this dude is no longer fun or cool. Blaine is on my damn nerves. I officially hate him and his cult followers. I felt exactly the same because I was like, this guy's kind of, what a kooky guy. And then this episode, I was like, oh.
He stopped being fun bad in this episode, I think. I think it's a valid point, yeah. Speaking of Blaine, Ann from Why Not podcast says, quote, maybe join a group that doesn't have hazing with the branding, kids. Maybe one that makes friendship bracelets or goes to nerdy cons instead. #revival.
Agree. Cecilia on Twitter says, just finished watching episode 5 of Revival. It's a lot. M's I'm a Cypress line is what I remember the most from this episode. How would Em and Dana find out who shot them? P.S. Dr. Ramin is so cute. So cute.
Dr. Ramin, don't be like, what's
Ramin,
his name?
oh my God, sorry. I didn't say Ramin. Ramin, let me do it again.
It's fine. Lauren via Twitter also said #revival on Sci-Fi is a cool show. I see myself in M, especially dealing with an illness that makes you seem fragile. I love the bond between the sisters and how they have each other's backs. And she actually shared a cool shot of some rad fan art she did for the show of the Cypress family. So she's at Lauren Poche, Poche on Twitter if you want to check that art out. We will probably retweet that as well for her.
Oh, cool. Dana C. Cypress on Twitter. Dana C. Cypress. I can read. Dana C. Cypress on Twitter said, I can't say enough about how much this show is just masterfully crafted. The actors deserve so much praise, and I'll always give it. But I'm really so endlessly impressed by the writing and the world building while also keeping us hooked. #revival.
Yes.
Agreed.
No, shout out to Noelle and Ashley and Heather and the writing staff alongside Aaron and Luke, who definitely have done a great job so far of doing exactly that. And finally, Heather Taylor herself, who wrote this episode, it was following along on the night of with Aaron, Luke, Romy, Melanie, and others with the live tweet along. Actually finished her tweet thread with this. She wrote, thank you, everyone, for watching. I asked my husband if it was pride that I'm feeling right now. He said either that or heartburn. I'm sticking with pride. But yes, again, this was a fun one. This was also a heavy one. Emotional, intense. It gave us more great moments between the cast members, as we talked about. And as the gents teased earlier, episode 6 is about to kick it up another few notches. So we do look forward to watching and discussing that one with them. So keep the theories coming via social media. And if you have some you want to send to us directly, revival@paperstreetpictures.com. We will read, general questions for the showrunners as well, or just, comments and theories yourselves. So that's the best way to submit stuff if you want to, revival@paperstreetpictures.com. I want to thank my co-host Liz, as always, for helping me steer the ship. Thanks again to Aaron, to Luke, your Revival creators, showrunners, EPs, for their insights and stories about episode 5. Thank you, of course, to Andy McQueen, who's as affable and likable as the gents told us he would be. Revival number 5, Triage, is in the books, as is this compendium recap. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will find you on the next one to discuss episode 6, Bloodlines. For Aaron, for Luke, for Liz, I am Sean Talley, someone who's also belted out a Barbara Norris track or two in his car, saying we will see you back here soon.
Bye.